Picture this. You are walking down a strange, dusty path, and you stumble upon a massive front yard. And in this yard, there is a young man, a prince,
Right.
and he is happily bowling. But he's not using regular bowling equipment, and he isn't in a normal alley. He is effortlessly hurling massive, literal boulders at human-sized bowling pins,
Wow.
shouting and cheering with every single strike.
Yeah.
I mean, he is making an absolute racket, completely unbothered by the fact that he is currently trespassing on the front lawn of a giant.
It is quite the visual.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled to have you with us as we explore a piece of source material that, on its surface, sounds like a wild, bizarre fantasy. But it actually holds a rather brilliant mirror up to our own modern lives.
Yeah, it really does.
We're looking at an excerpted story titled The Prince Who Feared Nothing. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack this deceptively simple narrative.
Because it is definitely not just a fairy tale.
No, not at all. It is an absolute masterclass in the crucial, often painful difference between being merely fearless and being truly wise.
It really is a text that catches you off guard. For you, the listener, someone who is always looking to gain knowledge, seeking out multiple perspectives, and looking for those genuine aha moments to apply to your own life.
Right.
This story offers a truly fascinating psychological blueprint. It takes us on a journey exploring exactly what happens when raw, naive confidence collides head-on with real-world malice.
Yeah, that collision is huge.
It essentially challenges our modern obsession with hustle culture and relentless aggression, showing us how true endurance and ultimate victory is often profoundly passive rather than aggressive.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the beginning of this prince's journey is incredibly recognizable, even if the fairy tale setting isn't.
Oh, absolutely.
The story starts with this young prince who is basically just bored out of his mind at home in his father's house.
Yeah.
The text specifies that he literally fears nothing.
He hasn't experienced enough of the world to be afraid.
Exactly. So he decides to just wander out into the wide world, walking from morning till night, not caring at all where the road leads him. He just wants to see some wondrous things to pass the time.
It's the classic archetype of the privileged youth leaving the nest.
Yeah.
He has no direction, no real purpose, and crucially, zero comprehension of his own vulnerability. His lack of fear isn't a hard-won trait born from overcoming adversity. It's a fragile state born from a complete lack of experience.
That makes total sense.
Think about it in a modern context. It's akin to someone who is born into massive wealth and assumes they are a financial genius simply because their bank account is full.
Oh, that is a great comparison.
They haven't built the defensive instincts of someone who actually had to scrape and fight to build their wealth from scratch.
That framing makes the next scene perfectly logical. The tired prince finds this giant's house, spots that massive giant-sized bowling game, and without a second thought, sets it up.
Just starts playing.
Yeah, starts playing, shouting happily, completely owning the space. And the giant, naturally, looks out of his window, sees this normal-sized human playing with his toys, and calls him a little worm.
Naturally.
He asks the prince, basically, where do you get the strength to bowl with my pins? And the prince, with just staggering arrogance, looks up and replies, oh, you blockhead, do you think you alone have strong arms? I can do anything I want.
It's a stunning moment of hubris. I mean, he is insulting a creature that could crush him.
Literally step on him.
But observe how the giant responds. A lesser story would have the giant simply step on him right then and there. Instead, the giant is intrigued by this human's sheer audacity.
Right.
He recognizes a vulnerability the prince doesn't even know he has, so he issues a challenge. He tells the prince, if you're so capable, go fetch an apple from the tree of life for my bride. I've wandered the world and couldn't find it myself.
And it's not just a matter of finding the tree.
Yeah.
The giant lays out these seemingly impossible barriers.
He really builds it up.
He says the garden is surrounded by a massive iron fence. There are wild beasts lying side by side keeping watch, ready to tear anyone apart.
Right.
And even if you somehow bypass them, there's a magical ring hanging in front of the apple. To pluck the apple, a person has to put their hand through this ring, a feat the giant notes no one has ever achieved.
And faced with all this, the prince just shrugs it off.
He really does. He tells the giant he will succeed, adding, I don't know what should stop me.
What's fascinating here is how the prince's total lack of fear perfectly mimics profound naivety.
Yeah, they look exactly the same from the outside.
Exactly. He doesn't respect the danger. He doesn't assess the risk, gather intelligence, or formulate a plan. He simply assumes his own invincibility.
Which is a terrible strategy.
Strategically speaking, this is a disaster waiting to happen. His fearlessness is actually a massive blind spot, and it sets him up entirely for the downfall that is coming.
At first, though, the universe seems to validate his arrogance.
It always does at first.
The prince sets off over mountains and valleys, through fields and forests, and against all odds, he actually finds this magical garden.
And the barriers.
They turn out to be completely trivial for him. The wild beasts are just lying there with their heads down, fast asleep.
Wow.
He literally steps right over them, climbs the iron fence, and easily scales the tree of life.
He reaches for the red apple.
Yes, slips his hand right through that impossible ring without breaking a sweat and grabs the prize.
It's the ultimate easy victory.
Totally.
The text is showing us what happens when unfounded confidence meets a stroke of sheer luck. But it provides a crucial detail right at this moment. The second he grabs the apple, the ring tightens firmly around his arm.
Right.
Suddenly, a surging magical strength courses through his veins. He didn't earn this strength through discipline or training. It was simply handed to him by circumstance.
And he tests this new power immediately. Instead of climbing back over the fence the way he came, he just walks up to the great iron gate, gives it a single massive shake, and it crashes wide open.
That is some serious power.
Even the sleeping lion wakes up at the noise. But rather than attacking him in a wild fury, the lion humbly follows him, completely submitting to the prince as its new master.
He is on top of the world.
He struts back, brings the apple to the giant, essentially saying, "See, I got it without any trouble."
This is where the dynamic fundamentally shifts. The giant's bride, who the text describes as beautiful and clever, demands proof.
She doesn't just take his word for it.
No. She sees the apple, but immediately notices the magic ring isn't on the giant's arm. She states she won't believe he actually retrieved the apple until she sees that ring.
And the giant, assuming he can easily overpower this supposedly weak human, decides to just take it by force.
But the giant gets a rude awakening.
Because of the magic ring, the prince is now unbelievably strong. They wrestle, and the giant absolutely cannot beat him. It's a stalemate.
Which forces the giant to change his approach.
Exactly. So the giant realizes brute force won't work and changes tactics. He suggests they take a break, go bathe in the river, and cool off.
And the source text points out something devastatingly important here.
It explicitly says the prince knew nothing of deceit.
Yes. So he cheerfully agrees, goes to the water, and strips off his clothes. And takes off the ring.
He just hands away his only advantage.
The tragic flaw is realized. The prince has immense physical strength and newfound magical power, but he has absolutely zero defensive instincts against manipulation.
None at all.
He projects his own straightforward, transparent nature onto a deeply malicious adversary. It's a fatal error in judgment.
And the punishment for that naivety is incredibly brutal.
It is.
The moment the ring is off, the giant steals it and runs.
But the lion steps in.
Yeah, the loyal lion actually chases the giant down, rips the ring out of his hand, and brings it back to the prince. But the giant is relentless.
He doesn't give up.
He waits, hiding behind a large oak tree. And while the prince is completely distracted, busy putting his clothes back on, the giant ambushes him.
Wow.
He attacks the prince and gouges out both of his eyes.
It is a shocking escalation of violence within the narrative. But analytically, it is a perfectly constructed metaphor for the consequences of his worldview.
So what does this all mean? Walk us through the mechanics of this metaphor, because going from a cocky bowling match to getting permanently blinded is quite a leap for a fairy tale.
It is a massive leap, but it's a critique on the limitation of purely physical solutions. Physical fearlessness is entirely useless against psychological manipulation and deceit.
Okay, I see.
Think of a modern tech startup that has an incredible product. Their version of the magic ring. They have the raw data, the sheer brute force intelligence, and they burn through cash with supreme confidence.
Like they're shaking the iron gates open.
Exactly. But they fail completely because they lack street smarts. They can't read the room, they don't understand office politics, and they misjudge the malice of their competitors.
That happens all the time.
The prince was already metaphorically blind to the darkness in others. He couldn't see the giant's lie. The physical blinding is just the external manifestation of his internal flaw.
His arrogant assumption that the world was as straightforward as a bowling lane left him totally exposed.
Yes. For you, the listener, who is always trying to consume more data and get smarter, This is a glaring warning. Raw intelligence and confidence aren't enough if you lack emotional intelligence.
That tracks perfectly with how helpless he becomes in the story. The image of him standing there physically blind, not knowing what to do or where to go, is a stark contrast to the swaggering kid at the beginning.
A total reversal.
And then the giant comes back, takes the blind prince by the hand, pretending to be a helpful guide, and leads him right to the edge of a high cliff.
Just terrible.
The giant leaves him there, hoping the prince will take one wrong step, fall to his death, and the giant can finally pry the ring off his corpse.
The sheer, calculated cruelty of the giant is on full display here, but this is also the exact moment where the prince's saving grace intervenes.
The lion, the loyal lion, is right there. It holds onto the prince's clothes and gently pulls him back from the edge.
Good thing he had the lion.
Definitely. The giant comes back, sees the prince is still alive, gets frustrated, and tries the exact same trick on a different path, leading him to another abyss.
He's determined.
But this time, when the giant lets go of the blind prince's hand, the lion takes decisive action. It shoves the giant right over the edge. The giant crashes down and is shattered on the ground below.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look closely at what the lion represents in this psychological blueprint.
Okay, what does the lion represent?
The prince has lost his physical sight, his primary rational way of navigating the physical world.
Right.
The lion, an intuitive, instinctual creature of nature that was bound to him when he acquired the magic ring, steps in to compensate.
I see.
The lion represents his intuition, his emotional intelligence, the deeper, non-rational parts of his psyche that can sense danger even when his conscious, rational eyes cannot.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And the way the lion operates is incredibly tender, too. After dispatching the giant, it pulls the prince back from the cliff and leads him to a tree where a clear brook is flowing.
A place of healing.
Yes. The prince sits down, and the lion splashes water onto his face with its paw. Almost instantly, the prince regains just a tiny fraction of his sight, just enough to witness what the text specifically calls a hint from God.
The miracle of the brook. He sees a little bird fly by and crash right into a tree trunk. The bird is clearly injured, perhaps even blind itself.
Like the prince.
Exactly like the prince. But it drops down into the water, bathes in it, and then flies up, weaving perfectly through the trees. Completely healed.
And the prince recognizes this as a sign. He bends down to bathe his own face in the water. And when he stands up, his eyes are fully restored.
But the story explicitly notes a change here.
Yes, it says his eyes are now clearer and purer than they had ever been before.
This is his true moment of rebirth. He hasn't just gotten his old sight back. He has gained actual vision.
That's a great distinction, sight versus vision.
The arrogant, untested confidence of his youth has been washed away through profound suffering and survival. He now has clarity.
He understands vulnerability.
Exactly. He recognizes that malice exists in the world, and most importantly, he understands his reliance on things outside of his own ego, represented by the lion and the healing water.
So he's had this profound realization. He's no longer the loud, arrogant kid hurling boulders, but gaining wisdom is only half the battle. You eventually have to test it in the real world.
And that test arrives almost immediately.
Right. The prince and his lion continue their journey and stumble upon an enchanted castle. Standing in the gateway is a beautiful maiden, but she is completely black. She pleads with the prince to save her from a terrible curse.
The Black Maiden is a striking symbolic figure.
How so?
This is a classic trope in old myths, something pure that has been corrupted and literally darkened. In ancient alchemy, they actually had a term for this specific stage, nigredo, or the blackening.
Nigredo.
You can think of it as the ultimate state of decay or corruption, a situation that requires a deep, transformative, and usually painful intervention to be purified or freed.
And the rules she lays out to break this curse are incredibly specific and honestly terrifying.
They really are.
The maiden tells him he must spend 3 nights in the great hall of the castle. During those nights, he cannot let a single ounce of fear enter his heart.
No fear.
He will be horribly tortured by unseen forces, but if he manages to endure it without making absolutely any sound, the curse will be broken. The only caveat is that his tormentors are not allowed to actually kill him.
And the prince, operating completely differently from the kid who shouted insults at the giant, calmly agrees to this.
He simply says he will try with God's help.
Notice the radical shift in his language. Before, it was the boastful, I can do anything I want.
Yeah, that arrogant swagger.
Now, it is a humble, I will try with God's help. He has learned his limitations. He understands that the trial ahead requires a strength that goes far beyond his own physical muscles or a magic ring.
And the trial is immediately brutal. Night 1 begins. He waits in the dark hall, and right at midnight, the place is swarming with little devils.
They act like they don't even see him at first.
Right. They light a fire, start playing games, and whenever one of them loses, they complain that things aren't right, and there's an outsider in the room causing them to lose.
Building up the tension.
The screaming and noise get louder and louder, and finally they swarm him. They drag him across the floor, pinch him, stab him, beat him. But through it all, the prince remains perfectly silent.
It's incredible discipline.
When morning comes, the devils vanish. He's exhausted, but the maiden arrives with a small bottle of the water of life. She washes his wounds, and he is instantly healed. And there's this great visual detail.
The feet turning white.
Yes, as she walks away, he notices her feet have turned white.
The purification process is working. Every ounce of silent suffering he endures directly contributes to her healing, to the lifting of that alchemical darkness.
And the psychological torment here is just as important as the physical beatings.
Because the devils blame him for their own failures in their games. It's the ultimate form of gaslighting.
Trying to get a reaction.
Specifically designed to make him protest, to make him shout out in self-defense, to break his silence. But he holds his tongue.
Night 2 is a severe escalation. The devils return, fall upon him immediately, and beat him far harder than the night before. His body is covered in wounds, but he continues to endure it silently.
And the reward for that endurance.
Again, morning breaks. The maiden heals him with the water of life, and this time he sees with joy that she has turned white all the way up to her fingertips.
We are building to the climax of his psychological transformation. He has proven his physical endurance, but the final night will test the absolute limits of his spirit and his newfound will to remain passive.
Night 3 is an absolute nightmare. The devils scream at him, threatening to torture him until his breath stops. They throw him around, pulling at his arms and legs as if they're trying to literally tear him limb from limb.
Just relentless.
The text notes it gets so bad that he actually passes out from the sheer pain. But even in unconsciousness, he never makes a single sound.
Incredible.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the incredible contrast for you, the listener. Think about where this deep dive started.
Back in the giant's yard.
The prince began this story solving his boredom by yelling, throwing massive boulders, and boasting about his immense physical strength. He approached every single problem with aggressive, loud action.
He was the center of his own universe.
But here, in the climax of the story, he saves the day and frees an entire kingdom through absolute silence and passive endurance.
It is a complete 180-degree turn from his initial persona.
Truly.
He wakes up the next morning, having survived the final night, and the maiden heals him one last time with the water. Now she is snow white, as beautiful as the bright day.
And she gives him a specific instruction.
She instructs him to swing his sword 3 times over the stairs. He does, and the spell on the entire castle shatters. The maiden is revealed to be a rich princess. Her servants return, they prepare a massive feast, and they celebrate their wedding.
That action with the sword is interesting.
The active use of the sword at the very end, swinging it 3 times, only works because of the passive endurance that preceded it.
Oh, wow.
The right to take action was earned through the capacity to suffer without breaking.
It's such a powerful narrative arc. We've covered a lot of ground today, moving from the giant's bowling yard to the cliff's edge, and finally to the tortured silence of the enchanted castle.
We really have.
Pulling all these sources together, the key takeaway is remarkably clear. True courage isn't just the absence of fear, and it certainly isn't possessing some magical ring that makes you physically invincible.
Not at all.
True courage is the ability to endure hardship, to remain unbroken when you're helpless, and to actually learn from your own blind spots.
The prince had to lose his sight to gain his vision. He had to lose his arrogance to find his true strength. And this raises an important question.
Let's hear it.
I want you, the listener, to mull over this final thought as you go about your day. The prince was ultimately restored and healed by the magical water of life, but he only received that healing after he willingly submitted to the darkness and the pain of the devils without fighting back.
That ordering is so important.
He didn't use his magic ring. He didn't use his sword during the torture. Consider your own life, your own challenges at work or in your personal relationships.
What should they be looking for?
Are there situations right now where you are trying to use the strength of the magic ring, aggressively fighting your way out, arguing, pushing back? when perhaps that very resistance is exactly what's holding you back?
That is a deep thought.
What if the breakthrough you were looking for actually requires the profound, quiet courage to simply sit silently through the discomfort?
Sometimes the hardest action to take is no action at all. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the sources today. We hope this exploration gave you some incredible insights to take with you. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we will catch you next time.